Man, it's another great day for a fantastic show, and I want to welcome you to it. This is my program called StrongWriter on the Radio, and I'm your host, Dean Olson. This is a video and podcast, so you're getting to see it and listen to it. When you're looking at it, you got a guy over here on the screen with me, side by side. His name is Scott Cook. He is from West Virginia. I believe that's where he is right now, but we'll set straight, get to know him and find out all about his music. He's got a great album right now that I've been listening to. It's called Tangle of Souls. It came out August 8th of 2020, and I'm telling you, it's a different kind of album that I'm used to feature on the show. It's a very kind of folk music, but let's ask Scott himself what he classifies his music, or whether he does. I have a real short intro like this, Scott, because as you and I were talking earlier, technical problems get in the way sometimes and throw me for a loop, but I'm really glad that you're here with me to talk and get to know you. So Scott Cook, everybody. How you doing, Scott?
Doing well, Dean. How about you?
Good. Well, as you can tell, I'm fumbling over my words, and I'm trying my best to trying to knock some sense into myself.
I'm glad we're up and running. It's like the Millennium Falcon, you know. It's not always pretty, but it works.
I'll just sort of play off that a little bit. With you ever had days where things just not going your way, and you don't know if you're going to be able to get it together when you're going to do a show or
of course, yeah.
Stuff? What do you do in that kind of case? Because that's
sweat.
Yeah, does it? Do you thrive off that kind of energy, or does it?
No.
Okay. Tell me about that, because I want people to know that even though you're a very accomplished artist and very talented, you know, we're all human beings, and we can get you know, not everybody handles it in the same way. So how do you deal with that and shake it off?
I don't like sound checking in front of an audience at the best of times, but when you got some serious technical difficulties and your mind's occupied with that, you know, and then maybe maybe the folks in the audience are excited to see you, or they're coming up and talking to you and requesting songs or whatever, or they're just drunk and excited or whatever, and you're contending with tech stuff at that time. That's one of my least favorite places in the world to be, I would say. And yeah, I just deal with it by sweating and getting clammy and nervous as heck. And yeah, I wish I had some good advice for that.
Well, once the show gets rolling, do you get into your zone, or whatever the case is?
That's it, right? Once you start singing the songs, then that's the thing you're there to do, and yeah, all that other stuff kind of fades away. I find even, you know, no matter how bad the sound is, once you kind of get into it, it doesn't really matter anymore. It's the words that are carrying it, and
yeah.
And you know, it's just I guess the technical difficulties are just, you know, the measure of them is how long it takes you and the audience to forget about them and actually just engage person to person.
How's usually well, first of all, how long you been doing this kind of stuff? How long you been playing music for people?
I've been full-time for 13 years.
Congratulations. Not everybody can say that. That's great. Yeah.
Oh, thank you. Yeah, I used to teach kindergarten in Taiwan before that. I lived over there for 7 years, and I would, you know, played my first solo gigs while I was there, and we did some kind of weekend warrioring over there, and
wow.
And gradually I booked a couple little summer tours back in Canada and tried to, you know, get a little press kit together and try and apply to festivals and that sort of thing, just to get my feet wet. And then, yeah, in 2007, I moved into a minivan and put a mattress in the back of it and just set out to be a full-time folk singer with very little idea of what I was doing. But eventually it started working, and it kept me going, and I stayed on the road that whole time up until middle of March, when I had to call things off and flee home from Texas.
Wow, that's a mouthful. You said a lot of things there that I'm that normally I don't hear. Like, teaching kindergarten in Taiwan is one thing. I mean, how in the world did you end up? I mean, were you were you born here? Let's say obviously you were somewhere, right? You were born in the United States,
I was
but
born
you went
in
over.
West Virginia,
Uh-huh.
and grew up around the Canadian prairies, and then lived in Edmonton, here in Edmonton, for high school and university, and
Uh-huh.
then I went to Taiwan shortly after university. I just heard about it from some friends, and they said it was fun, and the money was pretty good teaching kindergarten, and living was cheap, and the country was beautiful. And I just thought I would go over there and check it out. I thought I might go for 6 months. I ended up staying for 6 years.
Wow. Hey, everybody's got a journey. That's quite a. You've been happy with it all the time. That you know all this stuff that you've been doing.
Yeah, I've been happy with this, with folk singing for a living, for sure. It's been great.
Yeah, take some
You know,
guts. I mean, unless that's just you did it out of necessity. I don't know. Is this you had to follow it, right?
yeah, it was just something I always wanted to do, and I kind of, I guess I decided that I I would have a harder time living with um the thoughts of, like, what if I had given it a try, you know?
Yeah.
I guess the fear of failing was outweighed by the fear of regret, you know, if I never
Yeah.
gave it a shot. And so that's why I decided to do it, and dove in. And in the beginning, I was playing in a lot of bars, and being ignored and talked over by audiences.
Right.
And yeah, playing a mix of originals and covers, and really didn't know what I was doing. And I wouldn't say even hadn't really come into my own as a songwriter. But you know, by fumbling around at it, I gradually got a better handle on it, and along the way, I met some writers who really inspired me, and kind of opened up my idea of what a song could be, and what a performance could be. And yeah, gradually got better gigs. The first good move was that some people started inviting me to play in their living rooms,
Uh-huh.
and so as I started to do more and more of those house concerts, I started to learn what to do with the crowd when you actually have their undivided attention,
Yeah.
and that really helped me kind of make the step up to theaters, and festivals, and some bigger gigs like that.
Wow, what a story! That's a good success story there in itself. How all these people, these writers, how'd they come into your life? Did you meet them during performances, or did you seek them out yourself?
Yeah, people I met along the road. You know, I would say most of the writers I admire are just people that I stumbled upon because I'd never heard of them. You know, they're all small timers
Yeah.
out there, kind of slogging it out in a similar way, and yeah, I just happened to stumble across their paths. I mean, I got into music as a fan in the first place, and I still am. When I go to festivals, I try to see whatever I can, and I'm just always looking for that song that's going to blow my mind, or
Yeah.
make me cry. And yeah, back in the early days, a lot of times I wouldn't have gigs. You know, I'd have nights off, and I'd go to things. And one of the writers that had one of the profoundest effect on me is a fella named Corin Raymond from Toronto.
Hmm.
And I happened upon him because I had a weekend off out in Ontario, and some friends of mine had a festival gig, and they gave me a guest pass to just go and attend. And I saw his group. They were called the Undesirables at that time.
Hmm.
And Corin Raymond does this thing where he's delivering a song where he just really looks you in the eye and wants you to hear every word of it. And I'd never seen anyone do that before. You know, it was a revelation to me. And so was his songwriting. And yeah, he's had a big influence on me. But I would say, you know, most of the writers that I really admire, I came across them just that way. I mean, Jonathan Bird's another in those early days that I crossed paths with. Just saw him at a festival, and he
Yeah.
blew my mind. And yeah, you know, they've become good friends over the years. But all of them really informed what I was doing.
Well, this is great. So I wanted to get something straight. I know the people listening to and watching this, they probably already picked up on it. But let's see, you mentioned West Virginia, but you're in Alberta right now, where you're calling from?
That's right, Edmonton,
Oh, okay.
Alberta. Yeah.
So this is where you live all the time. Then I thought maybe you were in West Virginia so now I got that
No.
straight. So you're kind of all the Canadian talk. You've been up there a lot doing shows then, huh?
In Canada most of my life.
Yeah.
And yeah, but since I started playing for a living, I've been dividing my time between Canada and the States, and a little bit of Europe and a lot of Australia. I got another van in Australia that I was living in when I was touring over there.
Yeah.
So I just moved into a house for the first time since I left Taiwan at the beginning of February.
Really?
Yeah, so I'm living here in Edmonton with my sweetheart, and yeah, it was right on time, you know. At the end of February, I didn't actually want to get on the road, but I had dates booked and I had to go, and 2 weeks later, I was just rushing back home. So
yeah. Well, when I saw with the room, I said you got a pretty big van. You have a nice dresser and everything in there, but. Are you saying that your sweetheart didn't? Would she have lived with you in the van for a while if she could? I mean, she.
Oh, she did. She came last summer. We toured across Canada together. She was on banjo and leading some songs as well.
Oh, wonderful.
And then in January we toured in New Zealand together. And that was a rental van that we were living in, but we rented a Mazda Bongo and got around there. And nowadays she's playing upright bass, and we've been doing just some little kind of front yard and back alley gigs and stuff like that around the neighborhood.
Is she part of this album that you did too? Is she singing on it? Oh, okay.
No, that record was made down in Australia with an Australian upright bassist named Liz Frencham.
Okay.
Who's got a studio in her backyard. And then a buddy of mine from here in Alberta, Bramwell Park, he's on banjo and mandolin, and then a couple Aussie gals playing fiddle, Esther Henderson and Kat Meir, and then a guy named Pete Fiddler playing dobro, also Australian. The bulk of that was made there. I ended up adding a few more fiddlers as time went on, but most of it was recorded there in, I guess that would have been like April of 2019.
Okay. So these weren't people that you had been playing with before? You went down to Australia and met all them or assembled them or found them somehow?
I'd been touring with Liz Frencham for a few years in Australia when I'd go down. I think I met her on my first tour in Australia. She's quite well known down there.
Uh-huh.
And I was just in awe of her from day one. And we ended up playing together a little bit, and then we ended up doing some tours together. And then I gradually got to thinking we should cut a record together. And I had brought Bramwell down with me on a couple previous tours in Australia, and so then the last time he came down before that record, he was playing with Liz, and we just said we should put a record together down here. And I wanted to hire a fiddler, and at that time I didn't have any fiddler in mind, so both those fiddlers were recommended to me, and we ended up doing the first tour with Esther, and then the second tour with Kat, and a bunch of recording with both of them, both in person and remotely.
So this is your life now. I like it. This is what you were working towards, and you do it full time. I'm really happy for you. I mean, that's what a lot of performers want to do, is just to make, follow their dreams and not have to have a side job and worry about that while they want to pursue something that they really like, is going out and performing for crowds and recording music and writing songs and all that stuff. So sometimes that side job, unless you're not, and most of them, they have to have one that they like, but when that'll get in the way of the stuff you really want to do. And this is what you do right now all the time now, huh?
I've heard it said that if you have a fallback plan, you might fall back on it, So I guess that's I just jumped in because I really wanted to give it a go. But yeah, it's an interesting position to be in now, without a side job, because my business just evaporated, right? The way I
Yeah.
make a living has disappeared. So, um, yeah, it's been interesting. I released this record just what is that? Not even 2 weeks ago, I guess.
Yeah.
And I've been mailing out the copies myself. That's what I've been working on all day. Actually, sitting in the middle of a big pile of envelopes
Yeah.
and vinyl mailers and all that. But yeah, that's kind of taken over my life lately. But it's been interesting to try and find other ways to connect with people, and definitely the online orders have certainly picked up. Um, where the in-person sales have pretty much disappeared, because I'm not out on the road. But also we've been doing a lot more online things, and I've had a lot more time to do stuff like this podcast with you, and
Yeah.
various people that my publicists have been connecting me with. And so I'm just trying to figure out how to pivot and keep doing what I want to do, which is creative work, really. And in some ways it's a welcome opportunity to have 5 hours a day of driving and another 5 hours a day of setting up and playing a gig and tearing down
Yeah.
and bullshitting after, kind of taken out of the mix, because it gives me more time to think about other ways that I can continue to be creative and hopefully continue to make a living at this, while we're in this strange kind of period of uncertainty.
Yeah. Thanks for sharing all that stuff. Cause that's, you're the type of guest I really do appreciate having on this podcast, because it's, you sound honest and you sound authentic, especially when in the course of an hour talking with somebody, it's hard to hide the real you. You can keep that up for a little bit unless you're really good at being phony, but I don't catch that about you. And I think that the music that you write seems to reflect you. And I don't know if it's coming from like an autobiographical place, or that you look inside your heart and you conjure up stories. I don't know all the songs that you put on this album. Did you write them all yourself?
No, there's two covers on the record. One is a song by my buddy Scotty Dunbar, called "Why Am I Leaving My Home Again?"
Uh-huh.
And another one's a cover of a guy named Richard Blakesley. He wrote it back in the '40s. It's called "Passing Through."
Oh yeah, yeah.
It was I first heard it. I first heard Leonard Cohen's cover of it. But a lot of people have covered it over the years, including like Earl Scruggs did it, Valdy did it, the Highwaymen. Who else? Oh yeah, like back in the day, Cisco Houston and Pete Seeger. Yeah, a bunch of people had sung it. And so I updated that one. I rewrote one of his verses, and I wrote a new verse. And I had to get the permission of the family, of course, but I did manage to connect with them, and they approved that. So those two are covers. The rest are my own, and most of my writing is autobiographical, I would say. There's one song on that record that's just strictly a made up character, a song called "Just Enough Empties."
Yeah.
That's just trying to see the world through the eyes of a made up character, and still try to approach the subject in a way that's true, even though it's fiction, in a way that invites us to stand in somebody else's shoes, and invites us to feel compassion for somebody, which is, that's pretty new territory for me. I in the past I've tended to just stick to my life a lot more strictly. So it's interesting to kind of to broaden out and make up a story. But a lot of great songs that I admire are that sort of thing as well. Jonathan Bird, I think, is who I mentioned before. He's an example of a great storyteller who will just he'll just invent somebody, and he'll have you believing in him. He'll have your heart breaking for him by the second verse.
Yeah, Yeah, he was one I was thinking of, and you mentioned the name Pete Seeger. That harkens back. Some of this stuff harkens back to like his style. I mean, have you always the style that you're playing in is a very folk type of. Is this what you're drawn to, and what you like to play?
Yeah, I think of it as like Woody Guthrie.
There you go.
You know,
yeah.
that tradition. I mean, I realize Woody's drawn on things that are way older than him, of course, and that's spun off in a whole lot of different ways. But I got into music in the first place through punk rock, and gradually found folk, and found something in Woody Guthrie that really carried all the ethos and exuberance of the punk rock stuff that I got into in the first place.
Yeah.
And yeah, I think that's, you know, that Woody's sort of that broader tradition that harkens back to Woody is the lineage that I see myself as part of.
Yeah. Yeah, Woody Guthrie sounds a little bit more on point than Seeger, but you know, I hear banjos and fiddles and things in this, and I always like that too. It's not the kind of music I always listen to, but it certainly is stuff that had grown up on. You know, my dad was big into playing records like that, so I have a little bit of a reference point. And anytime I mention names in comparison to your music, don't ever be offended, because it's I'm complimenting you that it evokes a good feeling.
Yeah, no, it's no slight to be compared to Pete Seeger or anybody like that.
Well, they certainly had, you know, Woody Guthrie, Pete Seeger, John. They all had a social message to tell you in their songs, and people grabbed onto it for sure. And they didn't do it in an angry way either. You know, everybody felt that they could sing along with all these songs and get into it, and a lot of things became anthems. And you're no different in writing your stuff now for today's world. I mean, you got a lot of that in your songwriting, I can tell. Say Can You See is one of these songs that you have on there that it's a single now, isn't it?
That's the current single. Yeah, it's a very deliberate political song, but yeah, not an. I mean, there's anger in that song, but I hope it wouldn't come across as offensive to anybody. You know, I think that's part of the power of music, is that it can kind of get under our defenses, and especially if there's something you want to sing along to, if there's something that if there's a groove to it as well, if there's something that makes you feel happy when you sing it, I feel like there's way more power in that than in arguments and shouting at people. And you know, I really don't like to be told. I don't like to be lectured to by a singer, but I do like when somebody's up there with three chords and the truth. And you know, there's it's a fine line there. It's hard to put your finger on exactly what it is that separates the good stuff from the bad stuff. But I think, you know, if music lives up to its power, and that's a power in unifying people and bringing people together, and making people feel good, making people feel inspired, then I think it's doing what it's made to do.
Well, thanks. I've interviewed other people that have written songs in the same spirit of what you do, especially that one song. And I agree with you. I don't like being lectured to. I don't know what it is. I think it's. I'm on board with this. I always can get into listening to the song and appreciating the poetry, and the message seems to drive home a better point than to be talked to. I get lectured enough. In real life, you don't want to be lectured to, and I think I don't want to hear, you know, somebody that I admire doing the same thing on stage, or they have every right to do that, of course. But just from my point of view, I've had it with getting lectured to. If you got something to say, put it in a song. You'll You can lure me better with that kind of bait.
Yeah, yeah.
So anyway, great song. Say, Can You See? I plan on featuring that one right up front.
I love this country. I love the people and the land. But there's a lot of stuff happening that I can't understand. We got billions for bailouts. We got trillions for wars. But it's hard for working people to make a living anymore. Hear me out for a second. This ain't a partisan song. It ain't about right and left. It's about right and wrong. We're fighting over the scraps while a few are living like kings. 'Cause screwing us over's a bipartisan thing. And it's working people who made this country great, not the greedy opportunists or the peddlers of hate. And if a new day's coming, it's gotta come from you and me. Oh, say, can you see? See, I got a neighbor. We don't always agree. He's a bit of a redneck, according to a hippie like me. But if you're in the ditch, he'll pull you out, I know he will. And that's more than I can say for all those dickheads on the hill. He works hard for his family. He's got loyalty and pride. The company took all he gave and then cast him aside. 'Cause there's profit in poverty. Hell, there's profit in prisons. And they don't even pay taxes. They just buy politicians. But it's working people who made this country great, not the greedy opportunists or the peddlers of hate. And if a new day's coming, it's gotta come from you and me. Oh, say, can you see? Oh, say, can you see? In New York Harbor, there's a lady with a flame, still calling in the huddled masses in liberty's name. But there's fear on the airwaves and hatred wrapped in the flag, turning strangers into enemies and our riches into rags. And a revolution to break the grip of greed don't need a strong man or a savior, but I believe we're gonna need whatever magic this old world's got left to start, and all the ammunition in the chambers of our hearts. It's working people who made this country great, not the greedy opportunists or the peddlers of hate. And if a new day's coming, it's gotta come from you and me. Oh, say, can you see? Oh, say, can you see?
Did you, since it was a single, did you make any kind of video or something that people can watch on YouTube to get into it?
Yeah, there's a video on YouTube, and we recorded it down in Australia, actually, with the band that appears on the record. It's not us miming to the track from the record. It's us playing it live, but it's the same band as on the record.
So where about in Australia did you go to do this, to record your stuff?
We recorded in Liz Frencham's backyard studio in Trentham, Victoria. She calls it Dog and Bear Studio. Her and her husband built it.
Oh, yeah.
Really
nice.
Cool little little studio, just one live room, you know, so we're in there together.
Okay.
With everything's bleeding onto the other mics, and gives it a real warm sound, I think. Yeah, and the tour was kind of up and down the East Coast, basically Victoria, New South Wales, and Queensland.
Was this about the time you said 2019? Was this about the time they were having fires down there all the time?
Yeah, so the second tour was, the time where we shot that video was in October, November of 2019, and yeah, there was huge bushfires going on in the country at that time. As part of what I'm talking about in the book, actually, that experience, because it was pretty hectic being there. You know, you couldn't really not think about it. And climate change is something I've been thinking about a lot. We've had crazy wildfires out west for the past couple summers. This summer hasn't been so bad, but you know, when the sky is like, when the sun's all blood red and everything, it's like, it's pretty hard to put it out of your mind, you know. And friends of mine had to flee their houses, and a couple friends of mine lost their houses, lost everything they own, you know, in the fires. So it's something we couldn't really not think about, you know. It was on everybody's minds, and I kind of felt like the fact that fossil fuels brought us there was sort of the elephant in the room, you know. So that's a subject that I tackle in the book.
Okay, what's since maybe we didn't talk about this when the show went live, but what book are we talking about? You showed it to me, and maybe you can show the people here on camera what you have there. You got a nice hardbound hardcover book there.
Yeah, cloth bound. It's even got a little silk bookmark in it there, so you can keep your place.
Okay, so it's a little you said cloth bound. It's a little flexible there, so it's not gonna. You could carry it around with you easily, and
it's hardcover. It's 240 pages. It doesn't fit in your pocket. I kind of wish it did.
No, but if you have a backpacker, you know, it's pretty easy to take with you somewhere.
Yeah.
But it's it's not a coffee table book for 200. What did you say? 240 pages? That's a lot.
240 pages.
Well, you had a lot to say. What's going on in that book?
So the book kind of goes. It talks about the threads. It sort of draws together the threads that inspired the writing of the songs, or I should say, kind of follows the threads that spin out from thinking about the songs, for me anyway.
Nice.
So some of those are personal stories. Some of that is political stuff. I just kind of decided to sit down and follow them wherever they went. And in December of just this past December, I went to Taiwan for a month because that's my second home, and I feel like there's a through line there for me, because so many of my formative years happened there. So I went there, and I just I holed up in a rented place on the northeast coast, and I just wrote and you know, followed the threads of these songs, and then gradually kind of worked on editing it and getting it into shape, and then of course with this pandemic, ended up with a whole lot more time on my hands to kind of finesse it into form. And I had originally thought it was going to be about 160-page book, but it ended up being 240. And there's
this is pandemic inspired almost.
Well,
or
it is.
enhanced.
There's an afterword that talks about the pandemic, because in a lot of ways there was a bunch of themes that I was already talking about in the book that became, I thought, a lot timelier in light of current events. So I wrote a big afterword about that. And then there's words and chords to the songs, and some stuff about further reading and that, and just ended up being a bigger project than I had in mind at the beginning.
That's cool. Yeah, so I was saying that some of the stuff is folk. I like the whole the aesthetic, the way you have it played. It's very stripped down. I have to think about it now, because I'm not listening to it right now as we're talking. But it's a lot of fiddle playing and a lot of lot of slow picking. What are you saying? You had some dobro, some banjo, some things like that in there, and you got the upright. Is your friend playing the bass in there a lot?
Yeah. She's a real great upright player and just an amazing musician. Yeah. And yeah, she's singing harmonies and the banjo player and the fiddler on some tunes, so 3 and 4 part harmonies. But yeah, I wanted to go with a string band sound for this record. And it's the first record of mine that doesn't have any drums on it. And doesn't, I just figured I don't want any organ, I don't want any electric guitar, or just a real stripped down string band sound. 'Cause I really admire, I like a lot of bluegrass and old time music, and I feel like that kind of sparse acoustic treatment really allows the words, gives the words a lot of room to breathe.
Yeah, that's good. Good way to put that. I like the way you started it off, though. Put Your Good Foot in the Road is a pretty cool. First of all, it's a good name, good title. It sounds kind of trite and cliche, but it sounds like a good hoedown music. Really, really upbeat. Yeah. And is the theme? I have to admit, I can't. I don't. It's hard for me to pay attention to every word in it because I'm just enjoying the great effect that you. It evokes a nice feeling. It's a good way to start your album out, I think.
Oh, thank you. Yeah, it's a road song. It's a tribute to the road, and it's like an old timey tune in the sense of like the verses are just little couplets, and then it's got an instrumental kind of theme that just repeats, between the verses, which is a real kind of tried and true old timey form. So yeah, hoedown music is appropriate, I think.
Coming from somebody who's from California, you don't see many hoedowns. We don't have the history. Don't seem to have the history of that, but yeah. But you write in a good style with the it has nice 1930s West Virginia feel to it.
Cool.
I'm tired of all this calculating, waiting around so long. Takes a lonesome rambler to sing a lonesome rambling song. Honey, put your good foot in the road. Figure out the details, check your numbers twice. If you want to make a break for it, well, don't take that advice. Honey, put your good foot in the road. Card laid is a card played. When it's him that's dealing, well, exceptions do get made. Honey, put your good foot in the road. I sure like Mama's biscuits and her homemade apple jam, but I love the feel of waking up not knowing where I am. Honey, put your good foot in the road. On forever, the road it never stops. Just easy on your liver, boys, and careful round the cops. Honey, put your good foot in the road. There's plenty of generous people on the right and on the left. You'll see we're bound together like the warp is to the weft. Honey, put your good foot in the road. Good luck, people treat you nice. Got one foot in the open road and one in paradise. Honey, put your good foot in the road. Hit a patch of hard luck, people treat you mean. Wouldn't be oasis without spaces in between. Honey, put your good foot in the road. It's a risky deal put your good foot in the road. But you're learning when you're burning bridges, learning when you fall. If you won't dance ungracefully, then you won't dance at all. Honey, put your good foot in the road.
And I like that. Now, is this, do you just sort of set out to, musically, I'm talking about just the music part. Do you have this in your head, how it's going to sound, or you sort of set down with your instrument and just see what develops, you know, see what you feel?
I feel like every song has its own, it finds its own way into the world. You know, it's a different process every time, but as far as arrangements, you know, I'll come up with the musical idea myself usually, but the band, I leave a lot to the band in terms of like actually arranging the songs. And particularly on this record, because all the material was quite new when we were doing that tour in Australia, I was still finishing off the writing. And, you know, trying out different lyrics and stuff in front of audiences each night, you know. So we made the record at the end of that tour. So a lot of the arrangement ideas were worked out along that tour with the help of the other musicians. And I think, you know, for me, I'm a lyrics guy, so that tends to be what I focus on. But the other musicians, I think they're all better players than me, and they bring the level up of what I do, and they bring a lot of ideas to it in terms of arrangements, in terms of even just like, oh, let's try a little stop here, or let's let this instrument drop out, or you know, or even putting in some little lines, some little licks that are kind of signature licks in the song. That they contributed. So, you know, anytime I think when you make a recording, it kind of fixes something like a snapshot, you know, in a particular time and place. But of course, as the thing, it's a living, breathing thing, and it goes on, it develops, and it changes over time. And just where you're at and who you're playing with at the time has a lot to do with that.
I think it's the best way to approach it too. And when you get the band in there to record the thing, I'm assuming you did it live with, you know, you didn't do it track to track.
Mostly we did some stuff. We did some stuff instrument by instrument too, as it turned out, which wasn't what I had intended. But I ran into some challenges with some of the material because it was new, because it was vocally challenging. And I was having some vocal strain at the time as well.
Oh, okay.
So yeah, we ended up doing some of it track by track, even some like with a metronome, you know, which that's how I made my first record. I wasn't intended to do that this time around, but yeah, it ended up being how we needed to do it. Yeah, I don't think you can tell.
No. And you got to, and as far as your voice, that's another unique instrument to the mix, because you have a voice I haven't heard. I don't hear it too often, that type of voice you have. Just hearing you talk, I can see now. I can hear that coming through when you sing. But I like another name. I was thinking like Bruce Hornsby would, except no pianos going on in there. But I would hear nice deep melodic, you know. And you seem to you find a way to sneak that emotion in with your voice too. So my compliments.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, you know, Bruce Hornsby's a real kind of unadorned singer. You know, he sounds pretty straight up. That's the kind of singers I guess I gravitate toward. I'm a big fan of Greg Brown.
Oh yeah.
He's you know, similarly kind of straight talking meat and potato singer.
Do you sort of carry the sensibility of that your punk rock days, so to speak? the time you were you said you're a little punk rock, or what were you into back then during that era?
Oh, back then. Well, I liked Rancid. I liked the Descendants. I liked a lot of kind of stuff that's leaning over toward the college rock side of things, like Superchunk and Pavement.
Oh wow, yeah, we're talking way deep underground stuff there almost.
Well, it was '90s, you know.
Yeah.
So, but yeah, I think even what I'm this record, you know, "Put Your Good Foot in the Road" is kind of a punk rock song in a way, you know.
Yeah.
As much as it's a hoedown song.
Well, I say hoedown. A lot of that stuff is written in the folk song, but it turns out, you know, if you're a songwriter, if this is just the way you the theme you happen to develop through all the tracks that you wrote, but you know, some song could find its way into becoming a punk rock sounding song, or a you know, or just a, you know, straight ahead rock and roll pop song, you know, if you wanted to, you know. It's you never know, but it's all up to you, I think, when, you know, when you're creating it, what you wanted to do with it. So
yeah, well, and I feel like the ethos is, you know, it has a lot to do with sort of where you put it mentally. For me, anyway, where you know, a lot of what I gravitate towards in music has to do with the ethos. You know.
yeah.
That song is a simple little, you know, 1, 4, 5, and 6
Yeah.
little number with some sing along bits, and you know, boss man will tell you a card laid is a card played. When it's him that's dealing, exceptions do get made. You know, the road rolls on forever. The road, it never stops. Just easy on your liver, boys, and careful round the cops. I feel like it reminds me of a lot of the stuff I used to listen to growing up.
Well, that's good. See, I just happened to, you know, you know, that's not the stuff you're playing, you know, like what you're saying, Rancid. You're certainly not playing that kind of stuff, or the Descendants. Now that's something I was, I can get into that. But yeah, like when I was creating stuff, my stuff was very soft and more jazz, more like an 80s, you know, more like 80s pop jazz, Steely Dan maybe, or Simply Red, you know, some of those English bands that would have like a jazz influence or
Yeah.
Spandau Ballet. So, you know, it leans a little bit on the music side, little soft and little wimpy sometimes, but the stuff I grew up on and listened to, I mean, it'd be nice if I could, if I had the chops to play that kind of stuff. You know, I always like stall out when I'm trying to give you examples of what I listened to back then. It would come to me later, but it was almost as hard as the stuff you're talking about.
Mm-hmm.
But that's not what I create. So it's kind of weird, you know, how that it's nice to know what's inside your heart and what you grew up with versus what you're playing now. So it's to think that Put Your Good Foot in the Rug could have been a punk rock type of song. That'd be great. You could play it in that style, and then you might have it, you know.
Everything informs everything, right? I mean,
Yeah.
everything we listen to is coming through in some way, for sure. And you
Yeah.
pick an idiom, I guess, and you work within it, and you pick you pick a tradition and you work within it, but you know, you're informed by a whole bunch of other stuff, and literary wise too, I think, you know. There's it's kind of like there's different genres of literature, right? But it's like everything you read is going into it.
Yeah. Tell me a little bit. Let's pick one more song here. Let's see. What to keep? That was a nice, interesting song to think about. What were you thinking about when you wrote that?
Sure. Okay. Yeah, that's one of the most personal songs on the record, I think.
Good one to pick then. Let's do that one.
Yeah, it was coming out of a health crisis, actually. 3 years ago, I was hospitalized with alcoholic pancreatitis.
Yikes.
And just in the hospital for 4 days. But it was several months before I was back feeling well again. I was touring like almost immediately because I had a plane ticket to Australia and a whole run of festivals to do and everything. So I was right back into it. But there was a while there that I wasn't sure if I was going to get better or going to be able to continue touring. And and a brief period there where I wasn't sure if I was going to live, you know. So that really it was a watershed for me in my life. It brought up a lot of things. It forced me to look at my own darker side, I guess, and it made me extremely grateful for everything that I've got, and to be alive, and to be able to travel and still do what I love and still sing. So there was a lot that happened in that period for me. But the song is kind of, it begins with this image of just like when you're going through old boxes and you're trying to downsize or whatever, you're trying to pick stuff to throw away,
right?
And kind of the, you know, the emotion that comes up in that, I think for most people that comes up through that process. And it was a similar process to me, you know, kind of looking back over on the wreckage in the road in my life, and looking back at things that may have served me at one time and didn't serve me later, you know, that I was serving them. And that sort of process of reevaluation, and then toward the end of the song, it broadens and it starts talking about some bigger social things, about taking down old statues, and you know, I see a parallel there in our own kind of self-reckoning as a culture, you know, because there's a lot of things that may have served us well at one time that we need to leave behind. But you know, like with anything, it's all tangled up together, and there's you got to love even the parts that you leave behind because they served you once and you grew up together.
Going through old boxes, getting rid of things, feels kinda like a part of you died. Found an old journal where I'd written my dreams, and suddenly I don't know why I'm crying, and I'm wondering if I'm anything like that bright-eyed boy had in mind, and what to keep and what to leave behind. Everything just blows by in the open air, forever young, living for the chase. But life sat me down for a long, hard stare at what had me running in the first place. And the parts of me I refused to see, for fear of just what I might find, of what to keep and what to leave behind. I dreamed I built a raft to cross a river, and it took me over to the other shore. But then I got scared to leave it there, in case I had a need for it once more. So I dragged it on across the burning desert, where the wind-blown sand made me blind. And as I fell to my knees, I still couldn't see what to keep and what to leave behind. tearing down old statues, calling out the shadows of our past. The men we called heroes, the vice we call virtue, the ways that served us once but just can't last. And it can break a heart to tear apart what's been so long and closely intertwined, as what to keep and what to leave behind. I'm going through old boxes, getting rid of things.
And so I realize that's a lot. I'm saying a lot there, but
Oh, it's good.
yeah, that's the song tries to say it in 3.5 minutes, and the book tries to say it in 30 pages or whatever.
No, it sounds good. I suspected that the song was a little deeper than I gave it credit for. You now that you shared the your health challenges, how you doing these days? Everything okay now? It's been
Great.
a while. It's been a while since that happened. Now, a few years, but
Yeah, no, I'm doing great. Yeah, I'm healthier than I was before. But yeah, and nowadays I have a beer or two too when in the evening. You know, that's fine. But I'll never be drunk again, and that's a good thing. And yeah, and I took a full year off of booze, and that was a really transformative experience for me. And I mean, as much as I regret causing distress for people that care about me, you know, and as much as it was a painful experience, I'm so grateful for the whole thing, because it turned my life around.
well, your sweetheart's got to appreciate that now that you're better and that you're around, that you won't be having any of those problems anymore, at least.
Yeah, you know, I mean, our relationship is since that, and in a lot of ways, yeah, that it made room in my life for something more serious, to just not take things for granted and realize what I've got right in front of me, and be willing to sit still and dedicate to something, is something that was maybe a little outside of my grasp, you know, with the insatiability that was just running through me.
Yeah.
You know, in a younger version of myself. It's funny because it's like it's 3 years ago, but it feels like I'm talking about a different person. You know.
Yeah, it does. Yeah, I can relate to that. I had something like that, except it wasn't alcohol related, but I had multiple surgeries to try to clear something up, and this was over. I think it was a 5-year anniversary. It happened, and I said I can't even. At the time, it was a big deal. Now I look back at it and I go, oh, I forgot that even happened. You know, in some ways. I mean, I still got memories of what happened. It was just a kidney thing and a cancer and everything. But yeah, when you're talking about it was just a couple of years back, but now it's like, hey, today is today, and that was all. But at the time, I remember it being like that it consumed me. Going like, yeah, I had to tell everybody about it and let them know everything's that's going on with me, and you know, say prayers for me. You know, make sure, and then it was over with, and you move on. So, you know, I understand that not everybody gets so fortunate to go through something and come through on the other side and be good. So
Yeah.
I'm glad that's what happened with you. As far as the lady in your life, she came through midway as you were, music was first, and then she came along, right? So it's, but it was nice. It sounds the way you were describing it that she has a love of music too. So it sounds like it was a good fit, and that you can, she can be part of your life this way, and
yeah, we've
go
been
through it
playing a lot
together.
Yeah, it's great, and yeah, it's been really good to kind of during this pandemic to just have more time to approach the music. Both she and I have been taking some online classes and that sort of thing. You know, I'm learning flat picking, trying to find my way around the guitar actually. And, and she's been learning upright bass, and yeah, we play a lot of music together. It's great to be able to share that with somebody.
Yeah, it really is.
To
me, I think it's important.
Anything that you can share with your love is great, right? Like if it's whatever it is, you know, we're both really into the outdoors as well. And, yeah, just great to be able to share stuff like that.
You got good stuff like that in Canada. If you're looking for the great outdoors, Edmonton. I mean, once you get outside the city, there's some great what do you call it? Some wetlands or what do you have out there that's really nice?
Foothills to the west and prairie to the east, but yeah, there's plenty of lakes and rivers. We're right on the river here. We're in Riverdale, which it's just like kind of a little peninsula off downtown, but the river's just right out here, so we get out plenty to enjoy that. And yeah, Canada's got plenty of open space. It's a comfortable place to be at the moment during the pandemic as well. We've the government's come through with relief for people like me who've been put out of work by this, and yeah, I feel pretty lucky for my situation in the world.
Yeah, I think that's what it sounds like that you would have you got a good outlook on it. No matter what comes your way, you'll find some way to put a good make it a good situation. You know, turn lemons into lemons.
It's a real human thing, isn't it?
Yeah.
Just looking for silver linings, right?
Yeah, that was what I was looking for, a silver lining, because that's how I feel too. Yeah, things aren't as easy for us either, but we're doing our best, and there's many people in our lives, even real close to us, they're going through severe depression and some bad thoughts, and we figure, well, if we're not going through that, it's up to us to try to support them, keep them in good spirits and everything. So
yeah,
we'll get through this thing one day. It may not be the same as it always was. I wish it seems like just 1 year ago we were we had no thought in our minds at all that this would happen, and that we'd they're wearing masks everywhere, and watching what you do and not knowing if you can touch and hug anybody, and it's just a big it's just a big problem for everyone. So I mean, I'm saying the obvious, but it's been going on now for going maybe like 4 or 5 months now of this.
Yeah, it's had a strange effect on time. It's hard to remember how long
it is. Yeah.
But yeah, I feel like it's really exposed a lot of inequalities and a lot of things that were unfair to begin with, and I hope to see some positive change come out of it. I really do too. It's been nice for having you. I've noticed we've been talking for a little bit. Hopefully you sense that I was able to get a hold of myself and slap myself in the face a couple times, because starting this out, I was not in the mood. I'm not saying I wasn't in the mood to talk, but I didn't know how I was gonna try to be as professional as I'm sounding like I am right now. Anyway, you're in the zone now, Dean.
I'm in the zone, yeah. Which is why I said, once you get on stage and start playing, or whatever like that, once you find your zone, it's good, right?
Yeah. I appreciate just the tech's confusing. That's all.
I appreciate you hanging in there with me, and both of us are just sitting in our rooms, or I don't know where it looks like a dresser, so you must be in a bedroom somewhere. So that's nice.
Yeah, I'm in the bedroom. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, good. I can't imagine living in a van for all that time, but you made it work. I mean, it's I can understand you put a bed in there, but you got to do all the other things you got to do. All the human needs, and you got to eat, and you got to go. It's just a whole new. It's just a world that I can't relate to, but I appreciate that you had the commitment to go through with it as much as you did to achieve what you're doing now. So
there's a Canadian songwriter named James Keelahan. He said the blueprint for success nowadays was to lower your overhead and lower your expectations. And Yeah, living in the van. I mean, that was, I don't know how else I would have made it work, you know. I mean, in large part, I just wanted to travel and I wanted to see these places, and I was just thirsty for the road, and that allowed me to do it, and it allowed me a lot of freedom, and allowed me to meet a lot of different people from different walks of life, and hear a lot of different stories, and really informed what I do. But yeah, toward the end of it, the last couple years, I started to notice, if I was looking at a tour, the part I would be most excited about is like, oh, this 3 days here where I can like stay in a hotel or in a campground and don't have to talk to anyone or go anywhere, you know. So feeling that kind of gave me a hint that maybe it was, you know, maybe I was approaching a different chapter of life. So yeah, just moved into the house here at the beginning of February, and it was right on time.
Sounds good. Sounds like, hey, this is your life. Do what you have to do. And I just was sort of going where this takes us, you know, learning all about this. But I mean, from growing up from kid to you know, like high school age or whatever, like that, all the stuff that you're talking about that you did this after you became, like, after you turned 18, or was life what was life like in school age years for you?
Oh, school, boy. Well, in high school, I started playing in a band in high school, so that was a real kind of what to call it, life preserver. You know, that was something, because high school's hard for most people, I think.
True. Yeah.
Especially whatever awkward kids, dorky kids like I was.
But you had music, and that was good. So
you know, that was something that was actually like a glimmer, you know, during high school, and then travel, you know, I studied philosophy in university. I found that quite interesting. But then after university, when I first went overseas, that was really, that was the other thing that really thrilled me. And yeah, music kind of brought those things together for me later, to be able to travel and play. Yeah, so that was all, you know. I didn't actually hit the road full time till I would have been 30. Yeah, it would have been in my 30s that I started touring full time. So
yeah, I just figured all this stuff that you were describing, you know, teaching, and then and all. Yeah, none of that stuff had to happen when you were a kid. So, I figured that there was a whole life before that. So I figured that, you know, there must have been something leading. And you said you played in a band, so that's there's a start to you know, how your life started to take shape. You know.
Yeah, we were having fun. I mean, you know, I was the bass player because the other guys were better at guitar than me. So
sure.
And yeah,
everybody's always better at guitar than we are. You know, there's always a better guitar player out there.
I wasn't singing at that time. I was just playing bass, but we had real simple songs, and but we were having fun with it. And people started, you know, we never got paid. We used to play in these punk dives in town here.
Yeah.
None of them even exist anymore, but you know, people would come out. It would be quite often this like 5 bands for $5 scenario, so nobody was making any money. But but it was fun.
Back then you were probably just doing it to get noticed, or you know, to strut your stuff, or
totally. And like girls would sing along and stuff. It was like, wow, this is amazing.
What could be better? That's it. Yeah, now we're getting to the real part of why you do that kind of stuff. But yeah, whether it's girls or just impressing people with, hey, we're in a band and listen to us. And
yeah, I was never any good at sports, so it was like it was really satisfying in a way that nothing else had been yet.
I appreciate that. All right, well, listen, I should let you get going. Hey, Scott, it's been nice talking to you and learning about your life. You really got an interesting story, and I appreciate that you, you know, being open and sharing all that stuff. Because
good talking to you too. Dude.
I didn't even go deep enough, but I just felt, you know, I wanted to keep it keep it kind of on the surface, and let's talk about your music and learn about you know, I didn't dig too deep into your personal stuff, and that's great. A lot of this stuff comes out on the album. You can learn about Scott through his music, everybody. So that's a way to go, because you share a lot from your heart in your songwriting, don't you?
Yeah, yeah, and even more in the book. It's been kind of scary and exciting at the same time to be sending these books out into the world. But I've been hearing nice things back already, so it's good to know it's landing with some of the right people.
So you got all these envelopes. Are you sending albums and sending books out too?
Yeah, the CD's just in the back of the book, so.
So you can send it all as one thing, so everybody gets a book when they get their CD, huh?
Yeah, yeah. Awesome. Or if they're getting vinyl, then it's a vinyl and a book together in a mailer. So I'm sending them all over the world. There's hundreds of them, and I think I knew it was going to be a big task, but I think I kind of underestimated it.
Tell everybody when they get that book, when they order this stuff and they get the book. Now you told us what's in there. Is it an easy read? Can you get into it and just or is it a lot of musings and thoughts?
Some people have read it in a day. They're voracious readers. I've heard from a couple people who read it in a day. But I put a bookmark in there so you can take your time with it. It depends on what kind of reader you are, I guess, and how much free time you got.
Yeah, I'm a schizophrenic. Sometimes I'm a slow reader, but then I can read fast too. But just to sit down and enjoy it, But if it's the kind of stuff you can really get into it, and it's a good companion to the CD or the album that you got, right?
I hope so.
Yeah, everybody hopes so. Yeah, you put it out either way, so It's nice it was just nice to hear you say that, it could have been 160 pages, but look what you did. You increased it because of what we're going through now. You had a little bit more time in your hands to reshape it, right?
Yeah.
So that's great. Okay, I'll tell you what, Scott, before I let you go, I always ask songwriters this kind of question. Let me see if I can word it properly for you. For other songwriters and artists who are hopefully relating to your story, maybe you could share some personal wisdom with them. And if when you're a creative type of person, a songwriter such as yourself, there can and will be times when you're just not feeling your power, or you may not be inspired. Is there anything that you could share as for people who are going through that themselves, as a kind of putting your arm around their shoulder, giving them a pat on the back and saying to them, better times can be around the corner? Because obviously I can see that you've done that. Maybe in your own words, maybe you could tell them what's in store for them if they don't quit.
Well, I guess it's kind of a central theme in the book is about hope and doubt. And I don't quite know where to begin even talking about it, because I took 240 pages to try and talk about it. But I do think I guess there's two sides to that, and one is about when you're not feeling your power, like you said. And to that one, I would just say, don't take it personally. In life, I think a lot of the times when you get beat down is when you think it's about you. And if somebody won't answer your phone calls, or won't answer your emails, or you won't get this gig that you want, or you don't get the opportunity that you want, or you don't get the recognition that you may feel you deserve, or whatever. It's where that beats you down is when you think it's about you, when you take it personally, and so much of what's going on with other people is about them. Almost everything about what other people are doing is about them. So that's all I guess I could say to that side, and that's the advice that I would have given myself if I knew, when I was starting out, just don't take it personally. But on the creative side, I guess you know, for when you're feeling uninspired, or when you're hitting up against writer's block, that sort of thing. I think the best advice I've got in that department is from a book called The Artist's Way by Julia Cameron. She talks a lot about some practical ways of kind of priming the pump and getting the creativity flowing, and including taking yourself on a date, taking your inner child on a date, you know, making a date that you can't break with your inner child, that your inner critic isn't allowed to come along on. And also just morning pages is the thing she really advocates, waking up in the morning and writing 3 pages longhand before you have time to think about it, and before your critic gets out of bed, you know. I think those are, there's so much good advice contained in that book. So yeah, I think of that, and I think of also just you know, if you're feeling like songs are hard to come by, learn other songs, learn other people's songs, and look at how they work. Learn songs that you like, and pick them apart, see how they work. If you know, see how they work in a formal way, see how the chord progression works in terms of by numbers, you know. Oh, it goes to that, it does that, the 3 there, and then it goes to the 4, and just look at the changes, look at what you like about some other songs and how they work, and just steal all those tricks and try and put them into your own songs.
Wow, great. Let me see if I can reach through and shake your hand here. It's like, that was a good one. That was a real good one. I really appreciate it. And you took a minute to really think that through, and that's really appreciated a lot, because
well, it's a big question.
It is. I guess I made it big, really set it up that way. But as you refer yourself, you know, to that book that you were talking about just now, others can see that you put some thought into that as well, and they can learn from you. As you learn, I could see you learn a few things that you take with you in life from that book. You know, have you ever done that handwriting thing in the morning? Oh
yeah. If I want to write, if I want to get into the zone, 'cause a lot of times it's I'm not in a creative space right now. I'm not in a creative space because I'm doing mail merges, and I'm trying to make sure my spreadsheet's all tidy, and you know,
totally different
packing envelopes
right now,
stuff like that. So it's not. But when I want to write, I do that. I return to that. It's Julia Cameron wrote the book. It's called The Artist's Way, and that suggestion of the morning pages is like a huge one for me. If I want to get into writing songs, then I get into that. You know, I don't wake up in the morning and turn on my computer. I wake up in the morning and write 3 pages longhand, and just do it every day. And all of a sudden you're moving into a different space, and you know, and maybe I'm waking up and I'm writing whatever I can remember from my dreams, or I'm writing whatever it is that I wake up thinking about, or whatever happened yesterday. It doesn't matter, right? You're not writing it for to be brilliant or to look back on later. You're just writing it to prime the pump. And yeah, that practice for me is the best way I know to get into the zone.
Excellent.
And just you know, just stop thinking about my career or where it's going, or or how I'm frustrated at this or that, and just get into that creative zone, and try to open up that door to your unconscious mind, because often it has things that it's trying to tell you that you're too busy to hear.
Well, Scott, you've been incredible. I'm really glad I got a chance to have this interview. It almost didn't happen, and I really am glad that it did.
Well, thanks, Dean. Thanks for having me on.
Yeah, wouldn't have been your fault. It would have been mine totally. But I'm glad that hey, something happened and at the very last minute, and it clicked. So and we all benefit from it. So I really appreciate that. So let's summarize here. You have an album that you worked real hard on, and it is called Tangle of Souls, and the book is basically the same thing. It's called Tangle of Souls, the book. And ScottCook.net is where you want to go, and I'll bet you there's some way that he'll tell you on that website how you can get this. And
Of course.
and I think I'm really intrigued. I gotta check that out because I want to read that book now, because it's sounds like it's a page turner, and it's not a little pocket book either. You know, it's about so big. He showed it to you, and it's got some good saying. No pictures, right? Yeah.
Oh, a few pictures. But
Okay, so you threw some for guys like me who who need a little bit of that. Little bit of visual stimuli, and that's really good. So I appreciate all the time you spent. ScottCook.net. Scott, you've been great, and I am going to hang up on you, and as I do that, I want to tell you how much I appreciated having this conversation. You've been a great guest, so thank you.
Thanks a lot, Dean.
Okay,
Appreciate you asking.
be in touch. Hopefully we'll meet again. Take care.
Yeah, take care. Stay inspired, eh?
Thank you. Have a good one. Bye-bye now.